If you haven't watched the first part of this series, being my guide to the EDAs, that's okay. It's not exactly a requirement, but it certainly could help if all of this is new to you. But, of course, on to the review. 250 videos. What a milestone. I've done 100, 200, and in the last 10 months I've done 50 videos alone. I've managed to pick up the pace somehow, and I really don't know how. But, I mean, next goal, 500. Will I be able to make it to that point? I've been doing this since 2021, so by 500, will the world be bathed in nuclear hellfire, with the only reminders that I ever existed being a shadow where I once was, and these videos on loop on a TV, never ending as the generator slowly ticks around and around, eventually running dry, and so do the last vestiges of my memory. The first EDA to talk about is The Eight Doctors, a rather fitting title, even if it kinda gives the game away. I do want to preface this by saying I am not a great fan of literature. I have read many books over my lifetime, I guess, but I've not always been very good at properly analysing them, and me deciding whether a book is good or not, instead of just coming down to emotionally feeling, yeah, this is good, is usually how fast I can get through it. If I get through it quite quickly, I'm probably enjoying it. If it's taking a bit longer though, that's where we start having issues. I think generally starting the series off, because at this point I've read, I think, 12 of them. If it takes me 2 months or more to read something, I'm more likely to put it lower down than higher up. In terms of the EDAs, before starting from the beginning, I have actually read some already, namely the two Dalek stories, being War of the Daleks and Legacy of the Daleks, both of which, I will say now, were very enjoyable reads on their own without the context of the rest of the series, but we'll get into that when we get into that, which at my current pace is going to be next year. So the Eighth Doctor has recently regenerated and is ready to travel across the stars. Except he's just sprung a trap set by the Master and can't remember who he is. The Eighth Doctor now has amnesia. Get used to this, as you will be seeing this a lot, and if you listen to the audios, even more so. Speaking of which, there's a video that will pop into the corner just about now. The TARDIS takes him down to Totter's Lane in 1997, and this is where the primary theme of the book reveals itself. The Doctor has to go between 8 different periods of his life to regain his memories, which means that every other line is going to be some kind of reference from, at this point, the show's 44-year history. In many ways, this is a positive. Fan service like this is always quite nice to see. It establishes the Eighth Doctor's relationship with his previous selves, and it acts as a whistle-stop tour of the show if for some reason this is your first foray into the Doctor Who universe. But at the same time, to understand what's fully going on, you have to have watched quite a lot of material, which at the time in 1997 wasn't exactly the easiest of things to do. Either you would have had to, 1, watch it on live broadcast, which only people at the time over 50 could probably have done, 2, watch reruns of the show on UK TV Gold, which were only really the most popular of episodes, so some of them would just get completely skipped, or 3, get it on VHS. You need to have seen, or at least kind of know the gist of, An Unearthly Child, the War Games, the Sea Devils, the Demons, State of Decay, which means that you probably need to have watched Full Circle, the Five Doctors, the entire of Trial of a Time Lord, so the whole of Season 23. Surprisingly for the Seventh Doctor, he's just loosely connected to the Virgin New Adventures here, but he's on Methabilis 3, so we'll add Planet of the Spiders to the mix, and of course the TV movie. It's quite the repertoire. Each Doctor is limited to a single chapter, and we get interludes throughout of Time Lords trying to track down 8 and figure out exactly what's happened to his timeline. Strangely, Chancellor Flavia is president here, so I should really say President Flavia, which is odd because in a previous V&A Blood Harvest it's established that Romana too has taken the mantle of president. And what's even more strange is that Terrance Dicks wrote that novel as well. So what's going on here? There's a couple of continuity errors like this. In the Fifth Doctor's chapter, Tegan, of course, doesn't recognise the Eighth Doctor, but for some reason she confuses him for the Fourth Doctor. You know, the first incarnation that she met. I mean, I get that they both have curly hair, but there's at least a good 4 inches of height between the two of them. The whole Gallifrey subplot is by far the weakest part of the story. They basically just observe the Doctor as he travels throughout his timeline, not really doing much, and the main threat that comes from this plot thread is resolved by the sixth incarnation, leaving them pretty irrelevant by the end. By far the best segment has to be the Third Doctor's. He tries to steal Eight's TARDIS, tells the Brigadier to stop chundering on, and is overall just the most interesting and well written. The majority are just quick check-ins with the Incarnation, get the memories back, and then goodbye. The only real exceptions to this are 3, 5, and 6. The worst segment is the Sixth Doctor's, and that's not at all a reflection on his character. The thing is, when the two are talking, on multiple occasions I got confused and couldn't tell which one was which. They're written so closely together, and while they are technically the same character, there needs to be some distinction there so I don't get confused. Maybe that's just me. At the end of everything, the Doctor finally realises, oh crap, I've completely abandoned what appears to be the main plot, and I've skipped over talking it so far because, well, Uncle Terry did the exact same thing. When the Doctor landed in Totter's Lane, he quickly met his soon-to-be teenage companion, Sam Jones, and got arrested for possession of cocaine. I'm not even making this up. In terms of character, Sam here is pretty generic, and quite obviously the inspiration for Lucy Miller at Big Finish. She's what I imagine Terrance thinks teenagers are like in the 90s, and that's okay. He wasn't exactly down with the kids at 62. Apart from getting involved with gangs, she's a pretty nice person, but this only probably gets explored in the next story, so I'll talk about her more there. I've seen many people say that this story is either boring or skippable, and while the latter is arguably true, the former couldn't be further from the truth. I wouldn't for a second describe it as boring. We get 8 mini-adventures, going as part of a larger narrative that dives into the show's history chronologically, and that really works to its benefit. Should I rate these stories out of 10? Yeah. Sure. I'll give this one a 6 out of 10. It's a decent story, but as the start of a series, nah, it doesn't really do too much for me. The companion is just waved away for the next story, and I'm not really seeing the Doctor's personality come through just yet. Perhaps next time's book will make up for these gaps. But until then, I'll see you next time. Well, that wasn't so hard. Right, how many of these things do I have to do before I finish the series? 73. Okay, so by an estimate, if I keep reading at my current pace, I'll be done in 12 years. I'd better get started then.